Hi there, this is Dawn. Welcome back to my art room and welcome to my YouTube channel. It's lovely to have you join me. And just right now, I'm in a completely different frame of mind and looking to do something a little bit different. I have started it and I'll share that with you in a second. But today, what I wanted to do was get started on another zipper pouch. Now, the majority of this stitching is going to be by machine, so I'm sorry for those of you who are not fussed on machine stitching, but you know, I'm also aware that some people like to machine stitch and not just hand stitch. So, what am I doing? I've started doing the gosling quilt, which is a quilt that is sold through Gail B Home, which is a shop in Newcastle in New South Wales, owned by Beck, and she's made this gosling quilt mostly out of vintage fabrics, but in her shop she also sells some beautiful brights and neons that I just love, and thought I really want to do. I visited her shop in December last year and thought I really want to do this quilt. When I saw it hanging on the wall in real life, it was like totally different, and I thought, yeah, I want to really do that. And so I started it about 4 days ago, and then surprise, surprise, this morning, the lovely Corinne uploaded her video of her gosling quilt. And I was like, we had a big laugh on the phone because I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that I've got mine ready to go. I'm not going to be videoing the construction of this quilt. It's a pattern that you can purchase that comes with paper templates, but you can also buy the set of these, whatever they're called, plastic templates to help guide you with the cutting, and they just changed my life as far as this piecing is concerned. I've done lots of quilts in the past that are machine pieced together, pretty much all hand quilted. I sometimes hand quilted very plain ones, and depending on who it's for as to the level of washing that might need to happen, and figured that maybe machine quilting might be a bit more stable. So this one is about me challenging myself with hand stitching. And so what I've done, you'll see this shape here. I've done the first of those, and I'll share that in a minute as a separate little video that you can watch. But what I really wanted to do is to make a pouch for me to put the quilt in, the bits and pieces when I'm, off and about, sitting on the couch, whatever. Don't want to always have to do it here on the table. And because it's hand done, that's a possibility once you know where you're going. So I thought I need to make a pouch, and what will I make the pouch out of? And in the process of searching for getting started on this quilt, I haven't used Beck's fabrics, but what I have done is used a range of fabrics that I have. Oh, sorry, I'm just reaching behind me for some extra bits and pieces to show you. Is a range of fabrics designed by a lady called Rosalie Quinlan, who has passed away now. But her range of quilt material is in the brights, not probably really what I would call neon, but pretty close. And I have this huge range. I've made a couple of her quilts. I've done a lot of her embroidery. And so strangely, gosh, Corinne and I laughed and laughed this morning because I said, oh my gosh, I've got all of these matching embroideries that I've had for a really long time and haven't completed them all. I've done some and never did anything with them. You know, I've got these bigger bits. And so when I was getting all of the fabric together for the quilt, I, you know, had all of these things with them together. I've made rice bags with the squares. This one here, you know, it's got a little embroidery on each panel, and then her fabrics. I've got the Cosmo threads match in those brights. So I thought, you know, I really don't want to go and buy a whole new range of fabrics, and I just don't seem to be able to find the vintage ones. But I still have all of these little, and I thought, oh, they'll match. They'll go in the quilt. I can stitch them up and put them in, you know, some of the panels. I've got, you know, these ones. This one's half done that I can use in the quilt. And then blow me down, you know, Corinne puts her video up this morning and that's what she's doing, matching some of her own hand embroideries rather than using doilies to go in a quilt. Oh, we were laughed and laughed this morning. I said, gosh, we need to talk to each other before we start filming. I have got some old doilies for my quilt that are going to be in the right colourway, because older doilies tended to be those more primary colours. So I thought, yep, they're going to get used. I love these oranges, and I've got lots of, you know, orange in my quilt. So yeah, so goodness, you'll see hers, and you know, then you'll probably see mine. I've got my quilts, my fabrics all sorted out that I think is going to go in a colourway. And, you know, I already had these and I thought it seems silly, you know, to go and buy a whole new lot. In the process of looking for the embroideries or getting the embroideries out, this one fell out of the bag as well, because they're all safe and sound tucked away in a cupboard and no one ever sees them. And I did this one a long time ago. I want to go sort of maybe 14 years ago. Could be a little less than that, might be 10. Never did anything with it. Excuse me. Choked to death. I did this as a 2-day retreat with Rosalie and her partner, Leanne Beasley from Leanne's house. And Leanne is still working on some stitching. And I did it and I never did anything with it. I had edged it in this stripy fabric, and then this pinky colour was on this edge and made it wider. I don't know what I was going to do with it. I had no idea. Maybe framed it, but, you know, never did it. So I've decided to bite the bullet and cut this up. Oh, I know it sounds very scary because, yes, it's all my embroidery. And the only way to cut it is to lose a piece that's just going to be how it is. But I am going to use the machine. So what I've decided to do is make a zipper pouch out of a part of this, maybe sort of like about that size. Let me take you up a little squitch. But one of the things that I want to do is be able to fit the pattern in and the packet of templates so that I know where they are. They're just hanging around on my desk at the minute, slipping and sliding in their plastic. So I'm going to do a pocket on one side. So this will be one side and I'll have different fabric on the other. And then I found this tablecloth plastic at Spotlight on the weekend and thought, no, you really liked it. It's got a little white dot on it and not too obtuse, you know, not too obstructive of what's going on underneath. But I can and use that as a clear pocket. I've got my fluoro zips ready to go, so I'll have a zip with the plastic pocket at the front, but I'm also going to have a zip at the top. So I've got an orange one here that I think will go in there as well. Now, on a previous video on my channel, I have made zippered pouches by hand, and while it's easy enough to do, sorry, Paul's giving me hand signals through the door. I'm going to do it by machine, this one. And some of the reason is that it's just the way I'm going to do it. It's not a real reason. I don't want to sew the plastic by hand. I think the plastic will definitely sew. It's simple enough to sew it. It's quite, it's easy enough to get your needle through. But I think I'm going to prefer to do it by machine. So this video is going to be a little bit of stopping and starting. And my next bit that I'm going to do is cut this down. I'm going to add a strip of this on the bottom to secure where I cut it so that my own stitching doesn't come undone. But I'm probably just going to lose, not a lot. I don't want to lose a lot. Somewhere, let me see, sort of probably around here. So maybe that strip there will be gone. It'll have, the fabric, on the bottom of this piece and the top of this piece. And then what I thought I'd do with this bit is make a little matching needle case. Oh gosh, there's that silly doorbell. Always catches me off guard. I forget to put my phone on silent to stop it from nagging me. So yeah, so nothing's going to go to waste. This has been hiding in the cupboard for 10 years, never looked at it again, seemed silly. It was a lot of work that I put into it at the time. And so, yeah, I'm going to do that. All right, I'm going to switch you now to the video that I made the other day about the gosling quilt and where my head is, because this week was going to be a video of lots of little things, and then once I got started I realised that I actually wanted to do this little pouch. So it will have a back on it. This is already, the stitching was done with some Pelham, so I'll do the same thing. I'll line the other side with Pelham as well. I may just leave a fairly small edging of the stripe where the zip will go and where the side seams will be stitched together. And I'll put the plastic pocket on the front. But I'll come back and talk to you about all those little bits as I get to them. I'm not clever enough to insert pattern directions and all of that. I'll write it on a bit of paper and give you the measurements. But you might have something in your cupboard that you go, yeah, I could do it with that too. And just feel that even though I might lose a little bit of this, I'm kind of thinking, that much. I'm not losing a heap. And like I said, rather use it than just leave it sitting in the cupboard and not know, never going to hang on the wall. And a lovely little pouch to take away with me will be nice. I thought about folding it in half and having it, not cutting it, but this is upside down. And you turn it around and, I wanted to put a clear pocket on the front, and that's just going to look silly upside down. So a needle book is the next best possible action. Cool. All right. I will, like I said, share that next little bit of video, which is about 10 minutes, and come back when I've got all my bits cut out and my measurements. I will have stitched the little bit of edging on here, and the next bit of construction might be in another video. I'll just see how I go. I don't want it to go on and on and on forever because I think that's can be more annoying than anything else. It'll have lining. Like I said, I've got lots of fabrics in these colour ranges that I can line the inside of the bag. I'll probably put a pocket in it for my scissors and my bits. But the majority of the bag is just for the fabric and the plastic pockets for the pattern and the templates. Cool. I think I've rambled on about that for long enough. I need to go and get cutting while you watch this next little bit. Okay, talk to you soon. Okay, well, I've done one hard part, and that was to cut my embroidery. Before I go on, I decided not to attach that other little bit of video because when I played it back to myself, I realised that I almost did exactly the same thing. So didn't seem to be any point. And you've seen, what I shared in the first part. So, yep, sorry for that little bit of confusion. All right, so what I did was I worked out where I was going to cut it. I stitched this piece on and then this piece on and then cut it in half, or cut it between those two bits of fabric. I had them separated so that I knew, and it was just me wanting to make sure that I protected my embroidery before I cut. So hopefully it's protected, and yep, that's what it looks like. So this will be my little needle pouch, and that can just get put to the side. And so now I've just got this bit. This may end up getting covered. I'm not really sure what I'll do down the bottom yet. Haven't got to that bit. I've just been playing with plastic, and that's not for the faint-hearted. So what I've done is I've cut, this is a piece that's going to be the front of the pouch where the plastic is going to go. What I've done is I've drawn myself some 1/4 inch seams because that's just to keep myself in a guide, and I'm going to use the pink zip here and I'll use the orange zip at the top. And one of the reasons is that I'm going to bind it with this pink fabric to the plastic. So I didn't have an orange one for that, and just decided to keep it pink. So the way to do a tab at the top of the zip, so that won't get caught in the side seam. So that's one measurement that you need to make sure. So really, the measurements are about this piece and it'll be about your piece. So while I can give you those measurements if you really want them, you can let me know in the comments because I won't have finished. But it's about the piece that you want as your feature piece, whether it's on the back or on the front. This might be the front and the plastic might be the back, probably. So what I've done is, let's go back to the zip because we need to get that sorted out fairly soon. So in order to make a tab, it's about having a piece of fabric that's more than the width of your zip, folded in half, and a little turnover here and here. So that will go at the top of the zip there, and that'll get stitched into place with some top stitching, and we'll do that before we do some of the other bits. So I'm just going to pin that one back on there, just making sure that you tuck those zip ends in, they're not sticking out, which this one just wants to right now because I'm talking to you. That's the only reason. But there's a little fiddle going on. It just doesn't want to. All right, pin it there because that's where I'll top stitch across there, and it'll go across the back. So that's the end of the zip, the top of the zip. At the end it's the same. Now this zip is too long, so I've made sure that my measurement is going to come just shy of that seam allowance there, and I need the same thing to happen on this side. So what I've done is I've put hand stitched some threads to make sure I hold that in before I cut the zip. So I know that I need to cut it just about where the pin is, which is going to cut, tuck in. Now, if you're cutting a metal zip, for goodness sakes, use your metal clippers, but being plastic, I can use the scissors that I use for other things, not my fabric ones, and do the same. Fold that over, and then we'll stitch across there, and that will hold. You've sort of got the double bit of protection for the zip not pulling out, and that's where that's going to go. The next bit is, it's just disappeared from view. Oh goodness, of course, just goodness, it's on silent, so hopefully everything will be sorted. Good. All right, so the zip is going to be like that. I don't actually have to do that right at this very second, because what I'm going to do is put some binding on the plastic. I'll stitch that and then I'll put the zip in, so we don't need to worry about that one for the minute. The plastic again is a measurement of just deciding on, the size piece of fabric that you've got. And I thought about just having the binding on the front of the plastic, but have decided to encase it. So just to give myself a little bit of help, I've stuck a bit of washi tape just there. Those are bits of washi tape to stick the plastic to the fabric. This is probably, let me see, 1.5 inches wide that way, and I've just tucked it in 1/4 inch, given myself, ironed a seam allowance in because I really want it to sit there. And this is going from edge to edge, so the plastic goes as wide as the fabric, because that's going to get caught in the side seam there to hold it. And just to finish the plastic off, I'm going to stitch along this edge here with a matching thread, and then when I've done that, I'll come back and let you know what the next bit is. I deliberated when I cut the bit of plastic. I couldn't decide whether I was going to put a piece at the top as well, but I've decided I will, so that when the zip opens, not that you can probably see that, but when the zip opens, there's a little bit more just pocket. I couldn't decide whether it was just going to finish where the zip was, but no, I'm going to, so the plastic top will be, the zip will be attached to it in 2 pieces, or however many pieces, and then it will get attached to the background. Cool. All right. Well, I'm not sure when I'll get back to you, because my grandchildren have called to say that they want to come for a sleepover, and I'm expecting them fairly soon, so it might be in a little while before I get back to here, but just wanted to give you that heads up, so that when I'm done, the plastic will be encased in this fabric, and then we'll put the zip in one side, and then we'll do exactly the same thing for that top bit of plastic and for the zip to go in there. But I'm going to stitch along this edge first, so I've got 2 pieces either side. I've just made the plastic go a little bit higher than that seam allowance, just to be doubly sure that it gets caught in there, and the zip will be on the other side. Cool. All right, I shall return. Sorry for mucking you around with that other bit, but it wasn't necessary. All right, I'm back in a second. I'm back, and I've done, bits and pieces. I'm ready to do and explain the next bit, but I found my tape measure, so I thought I'll come and tell you exactly, what the measurement is. So this is 10 1/4 inches wide. There'll be 1/4 inch seam allowance on either side, so from there to there, about 9.5 inches by and then the same 9 inches. So it's nearly square. It's just a little bit wider than it is long. All right, so, and I've cut my bits of plastic out. I've stitched the facing part onto this bit of plastic, and I've done the same, so that when you open it, and the sticky tape worked really well holding the plastic in place. So it's the same. So it's top stitched through both sides with the plastic embedded in there, and all I did was added that little bit of tape just to hold it. So next the zip will go in, but we'll do this bit first. What I haven't done is attached it, to the backing. So at this point, number one, we need to make sure that the zip is within that seam allowance, because we want this as wide, because it'll get caught in the seam allowance, but we don't want that to get caught in the seam allowance. So we need to make sure that that's pinned in the right place. And then I'll stitch the zip in here. On my machine, I have what's called a zipper foot. And if you're stitching, so you can decide which side of the foot the needle will sit. And so when you're stitching something up this close, having, I don't know where it's the best to show you, having the needle on this side, you can get up nice and close for a top stitch next to the zip. It's always probably useful to unzip it till you get past this big bit, stop, re-zip it, and then keep going. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do exactly the same thing on this side. I will stitch this in the same place so that, and one of the things that I want to remind you about is making sure you've ironed everything before you start adding plastic, because you can't iron it when you've got the plastic. And one of these little turnovers I'd forgotten about till I came to it, and I was like, oh my gosh. So yeah, just, it's just about being careful, that's all. All right, and so those are they're going to get caught in the seam allowance, so that'll finish those off, and that'll be just top stitched to there. Cool. All right, I'll pin that in place and stitch that down, and then I'll make a decision as to exactly where, I want it to sit, because, it might be that, I think it's okay, but what's happened down the bottom here is because I didn't cut it till I was ready. This has gone beyond, so I need to shorten this length here, but the top's all right. Good-o. All right, I'm going to go and do that, and I'll come back to you. And then once we've done that bit, there'll be just the next bit will be about planning the lining and the zip for the top. Okay, I'll be back. Sorry, all the stops and starts, but it was that it just meant that I didn't need to take you to the sewing machine, which I didn't think that always works so well. So my zipper's into my plastic pocket, and I'm pretty happy with that. I'm really glad that I took the time to fiddle around, turn over those little seams so that they got tucked in. They're nice and neat. The one row of top stitching, just a bit of fiddling around to get them. So just as a reminder, it's all caught in between these two. So just making sure that they're the same width, that you've ironed them over. And it wasn't hard to do, and if there was an area that I was a bit generous with my ironing, I could just fiddle around with it. So yeah, so that's all done. So what I can do now is trim those off, and then trim. So I'm just going to trim the fabric back to the plastic, because we don't need that in the seam allowance. And I'll keep those little bits for now because I might need them as part of the, you know, trim for either where the zip is or my needle book. Cool. And now just making sure that my plastic fits. I want it, it's going to be caught in, remember, into the seam allowance all around there and the bottom. Now I was leaving that to trim, but that bit there is just because I've added that bit in there. I've got that bit down the bottom. But I purposely didn't want to just cut one piece and then the other, because sure as eggs you cut it too short and too whatever. Better too big than too short, and cut an inch off the bottom. Cool. All right, so the next step is adding the zip to the top. So before we make up a pouch, we need to add the zip to the top. And I can't even see where that zip's gone. Oh, it's here. I had a long one and a short one. I've got a little short one which just wasn't quite long enough to do anything with, but might go in my needle book. All right, I'm going to add that there. So the way to do this is either stitch it that way and turn it over, and you would do the same with this side, would be attached exactly the same way. So it would go and be attached like that. Because I've got the plastic in here, I'm thinking I maybe should have something protecting it. I haven't quite resolved that one. Just talking about it with you has made me think about when it turns over, it's going to be turning plastic, and I don't know that that's maybe going to be quite as successful. So what I might have to do is another one of those. Let me have a little think about that. Got another one somewhere. Or I've got this one. I'm thinking out loud, sorry. And have the zip fit in that one, which actually might be slightly better. All right, I'm going to go away, play with it, come back and tell you what I do. All right, I hope you're following along and it's not too crazy. But the only thing that I'm concerned about is when the zip goes in, it'll have to bend the plastic when the zip's attached to it. And I don't know how nicely that'll sit with that plastic edge there. So I'm thinking it needs a fabric edge. Cool. All right. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I've resolved it to a point. So what I worked out is that I really needed to add this extra bit on the top of both the back and the front, simply because it was never going to turn nicely with that plastic. So what I've done is I did the same sort of process that I used when I was stitching this on. I just folded over a seam allowance and then top stitched it straight exactly like that. It's going to look a little bit different the next step. And I've also backed the back of this with just some Palin. I'm not going to quilt it because, I'm not. You know, I don't think that it needs it. But this was backed in Palin. So I'm starting on the back part of the pouch. Okay, so do I want the zip opening that way or that way? Okay. And maybe I want it to open that way. I never looked at it. Oh yeah, so when I turn it over, it's going to go that way. All right, so let's take that one off again. So I just treated the ends of the zip with a tab exactly the same way as I did for this one. And I've done a tab zip once before in a different little zipper pouch, and you didn't feel like that was really clear, and it was done by hand. So if you want to go back and have a bit of a look. So with right side facing, the wrong side of the zip, because it's going to turn over, okay? Make sure you leave that little 1/4 inch seam allowance. And what I'll be doing is treating the pouch a little bit like a quilt, where I'm going to put binding all the way around to hold it together. So it'll be the outside and the inside all stitched together in one piece with a binding. And I've chosen this binding to go all around just to keep a bit of continuity. This is my lining. Okay, I'm going to stitch the zip on there, and you'll see that when it's done it'll turn over like that. And the same thing with this one. I've put that edging on there. It will be the same process. So I'll come and I'll stitch that there. If I pin it and show you what it's going to look like, I'm going to stitch fairly close to the zip so that when it opens out, it'll open out like that and the zip will be enclosed. And then we'll worry about the lining next. But what you won't see is that top stitch here yet. It will happen, but not yet, because we've got to get the lining on, whatever. But I'm cool with all of these little things. And, you know, I've cut myself some binding for around the outside edge, so it'll do that. So it'll kind of look a little bit like a quilt. Now, this is the way I'm doing it. You might find a different way of managing it. To me, my biggest concern, as I said, was having that plastic do a turn, and I think I'm probably thinking the same thing here. If I do an internal seam, I'm going to have that bulk turn, and I don't turn it inside out and doing all that with plastic. I'm not sure that that's going to work. Be a neat finish, and that's probably what I'm thinking about now. Okay, I'm going to stitch the zipper onto the back, and I'm also going to stitch the zipper onto the front in exactly the same way. So this facing up, the zip facing down, and match that edge. Hopefully my instructions are clear and that you can follow along. So when it turns, it'll look like that. So right side facing up, zip facing down. Cool. All right, just a couple more steps and we'll be done. I've put the zip in now for the back and the front. That's this orange one here. As I explained, I'm holding off the top stitching. That's not going to happen just yet. And now we need to do the lining. And I think we're going to get this done in one video, which is very exciting. That's just a little patch, because when I did the pelham, it was, you know, funny cutting it, and no one's ever going to know. This is all about reusing and with what I've got. All right, so one piece of lining I've stitched a pocket into. I just over, you know, folded over a hem, stitched down the middle there so that it makes 2 pockets. And now we're going to do the same process as before. So it's going to be the right side of the lining to the wrong side of the zip, like that, so that when it folds over, it's going to look like that. The pocket is going on to, this is the back, remember, with the plastic. So the pocket is going to be on that side of the purse, the pouch. Okay, so I'm just going to pick it up like that, matching up my ends. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch it from this side, simply because I can see the previous stitch line, and what I probably want to do is come just in of it. I just don't want to see it when I turn it over. So if I just remember to stitch there, when it goes over, I'm not going to have like 2 rows of stitching. Cool. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do this poor old pin. Seen better days. And then the same thing for the other side, so that when that folds over, it will have its lining on that side like that with the zip. And now I need to do this one the same way. So it is the right side of the lining to the wrong side of the zip. I just got to always keep checking this because, you know, it's wider than it is longer. And I just want to make sure that I've got it. Yeah, okay, it's this one. Cool, good. All right, it's going to go. Did the first one without any problem at all. It's going this way. Is it going that way? God, I've turned it around so many times now, I don't know what I'm doing. That way, good. Right side of the fabric to the wrong side of the zip. That's the rule. Right side to wrong side. And I think the best part about this is that I'm going to have this finished tonight. It is tonight. I started this in the middle of the day today. The pouch, well, started putting it together. I'd had the planning of it already sorted last night, and then you know, where I decided to use the embroidered piece and had it all ready and waiting to go. And we're probably going to have to do a bit of this, a bit of trimming up. The disadvantage of not having a pattern to cut your pieces out. We've winged it. We've cut things out as we've gone along. We had no instructions. I didn't have any instructions. I've seen them made, but I've never made one. Right, good. Just doubly checking before I stitch it that everything is how it's in the place that it's supposed to be. So this is where the zip is, inside and outside. Cool. Gosh, okay. All right, I'm going to go and stitch these bits and then I'll be ready to put the binding on. Can't believe it. We're nearly done. Okay, so hopefully yours looks like this. I'm pretty chuffed that I've managed to get this done, and never having made one, never actually sewed with plastic before, so it's been a little bit of a challenge. That's the lining in there, but what I'm going to do now is give it a press just to flatten it out here and here. Be very careful about that plastic because we don't want to melt it, but I do want it to lay a little bit flatter. There's a little bit of a whoop here, but you know, what I've said in the past is it's handmade. If we didn't want whoops, we'd go and buy it. All right, so, and then I'm going to top stitch here and here. So I'm going to press this open, top stitch this, and then what I'm going to do is trim it up and make sure that all my edges are matching. I've trimmed this off here because I don't need that extra length on there, because I'm going to use the same binding all the way, so it's going to cover it. It's there simply to protect the embroidery. You know, in hindsight, probably didn't need to use that nice stripy fabric, but that's okay. It's nice stripy fabric. We know it's there. Good. All right, pressing top stitching. Back in 1 second. Okay, all right, so I've had a couple of goes at this binding, a little bit trickier than I expected it to be. And so what I couldn't do when I was doing this in one hit, I couldn't do it that way. So I've had to resort back to doing the normal stitch one side, fold it over and stitch the other side. So I've got to that point. I've done these side bits here. I haven't stitched yet, so I need to stitch that and there. But when I tried to do it all in one hit, like fold it over, stitch it, the plastic fought with the material, which fought with the zipper foot, and yeah, because I'm still using the zipper foot just to keep, you know, close to the edge. I just think that's handy. So yeah, so I'm going to go and now just do that last little bit of stitching. You could hand stitch it if you've got your fabric. You know, I stitched to the plastic first and then folded over to the fabric side, and I could do a running stitch like a normal quilt edging. I could hand stitch it, but I thought I might still go for that top stitched look and hopefully not make a mess of it that I've got everywhere else. It's the only reason I've decided to do it. All right, well, I'm going to put it on stop here. I'm actually going to say goodbye. You've seen this. You know what it looks like. I'm really happy with how that looks. It's nice and neat on the inside. It's not going to catch on anything. I've got the inside of my pouch all together. Plenty of room. 2 little pockets here. And all the edges are all caught in. I can run my hand around. I know that's going to do that. And I know I've used a bit of stitching that I've had for, you know, too long. Cool. All right. Well, I don't think I need to come back and talk to you anymore. I think I'm done. I will put a little thumbnail in to show you the finished thing without pegs, but that's it. I'm done. I've stitched this side. All I have to do is stitch that, and I might hand stitch it and see what I think, and then if I think I still need to top stitch it just for a bit of extra embellishment. Okay, I'm done. I just thought I'd come back and show you where I got to. I did hand stitch it on the fabric side. I was a bit happier with the finish of that. I don't think I'm even going to bother going back and doing top stitching. Just wanted to show you it done. My little acrylic templates are in here with the pattern, and I can put the rest of my quilt in there when I've got that bit done. So yeah, cool. All right, I'm ready to sign off today. I've got a little person singing in the background. They're waiting and hoping that the day will warm up and we're going to go to the pool. Cool. All right, that's me. I'm going to sign off for this video, publish it. I know that Corinne's doing one as well, so hopefully we don't overlap each other. Okay, see you next time. Bye for now.